This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Becoming the most valuable sports franchise in the world doesn't happen without risk. A man who's willing to bet it all, and the players ready to make their own luck. America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, is the story of the 1990s Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones's impact on NFL history. Featuring interviews with iconic 90s players and more. Watch America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, streaming now only on Netflix.
Gatorade is the #1 proven electrolyte blend designed to hydrate better than water. So you can lose more sweat and raise your game. Gatorade, is it in you?
We step away for one day, and the whole thing starts falling apart. Welcome back into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and today we're going to recap day 15 and 16 of San Francisco 49ers training camp. Going to get into the good, the bad, and unfortunately, a lot of ugly out of Santa Clara at Niners HQ. A lot of bad things happening. Injuries, suspensions. The wide receiver room is in shambles, but despite all those negative things, we do have some good things. And let's kick things off with the roster moves San Francisco made. But first, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the show. And if you can, leave us a 5-star review on the audio podcasting platforms. It is the freest, easiest, and most simplest way to help the show out and help us gain some more traction and hopefully bring more eyes and ears to the show and hopefully grow the community around us. That said, let's dive into some quick hitting notes via the roster moves of the San Francisco 49ers. The first being they have signed offensive lineman Michael Dunn and wide receiver Malik Knowles to the 90-man roster, and they have released defensive lineman Damone Harris and unfortunately released /wave injured running back Corey Kiner. The UDFA from Cincinnati was having a pretty good training camp in preseason. I was hoping he would find his way on the active roster at some point this year, but suffered what seems to be a pretty severe high ankle sprain against the Las Vegas Raiders this past Saturday. He will revert back to San Francisco's injured reserve if he is not claimed, so there may be some hope in there that Kiner does return to San Francisco. My assumption is he'll go on IR. I don't know if that is season-ending IR or if they can activate him once he is potentially healthy again during the year. But right now, fingers crossed, no other team claims Corey Kiner as he was once again released and waived by the San Francisco 49ers. It sucks, it stinks, but as you will see as the show continues, a lot of injuries, and one of the big ones being to Corey Kiner. The team yesterday placed running back Patrick Taylor Jr. on season-ending injured reserve due to a fractured shoulder, so San Francisco loses 2 key depth running backs behind Christian McCaffrey, Isaac Orendo, and Jordan James, and it makes it pretty clear now that Jeff Wilson Jr. will find his way onto the active roster at the beginning of the season. At one time, he was RB7 or 8, and now it looks like he's RB4 in a flash, which, funny enough, I believe he was RB4 in 2019, so kind of a full circle moment for Jeff Wilson Jr. now back with the San Francisco 49ers. I want to say what's up to Papa J in the YouTube comments. What's up, Papa J? We're back. Day 15, day 16 recap. Hope you're locked in because we have a ton of news to get to that happened the last couple of days. And one of the bigger news pieces that came out this morning was via Diana Rossini of The Athletic, because with all the bad things happening in San Francisco's wide receiver room, so many guys injured, so many guys that are either working their way back from injuries or re-injured again, or maybe suspended. The Niners are one of a few teams currently searching to improve or upgrade the wide receiver room in the NFL. I believe the Jets and the Vikings were also in that group, but San Francisco had trade talks with the Houston Texans for wide receiver John Mechie. He went to the Philadelphia Eagles after all, but the Niners are trying to find somebody now. Who is that somebody? I don't know, but it seems like San Francisco is looking for a cheaper veteran or a rookie deal wide receiver to help at least, again, lift up that room. I don't know, they're not going to go out and buy a big name player, right? They're not getting Tyreek Hill at this point in time. Maybe later, maybe eventually, but not right now. They have to find guys that can just kind of bridge the gap to the return of Juwan Jennings, Demarcus Robinson, and Brandon Ayuk. That said, if San Francisco is seriously trying to upgrade or get players that have a couple years of team control under contract for the next few years, or guys that may be able to give them some pop, but not need to play every single Sunday or need to have, 10 touches or receptions or targets a game. I have found 3 guys I think fit that mold. I don't think all these guys are available. That said, I do think San Francisco may be able to offer something the following teams would be open to accepting in return for the next 3 receivers. The first one on my list is the Washington Commanders, and no, it's not Terry McLaurin. Pause the brakes. But what about wide receiver KJ Osborne? Not the biggest name, but was a couple years ago a fairly large piece of the Vikings passing attack before they drafted Jordan Addison, and before Jay Jettis kind of really took off in the offense. He's played in a Shanahan-like offense before with Kevin O'Connell. Maybe the Commanders, once they pay Terry McLaurin, they have Deebo Samuel, they drafted Jalen Lane in this past year's draft. They already have some guys in that room. I think KJ Osborne may be a cheaper option for San Francisco via the trade market if they want to go that route. He was a wide receiver 2 in Minnesota for a couple years. Now, he'd probably be the wide receiver 4 or 5 in San Francisco for a short period of time. And they could always cut him once other guys come back, and there wouldn't be too much of a loss there via KJ Osborne. The other guy, the least likeliest to be traded on my list, is Packers wide receiver Dontavian Wicks. The reason why I think Dontavian Wicks can make some sense is because he does bring a bigger body to the field, but also he can run those gadget plays, the end arounds, the screens, and do a little bit of the Deebo Samuel stuff, although not too much of it to hinder the offense and make it a, kind of a one-note offense, which we've seen in previous years with Deebo in the backfield. But the Packers, I'm not sure they are completely open to trading wide receivers, knowing that Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson have had a lengthy injury history. Watson is currently injured right now as we speak with a torn ACL. But if Green Bay's open to the idea, I don't know if they want to help out the San Francisco 49ers. But however, there is a way maybe Dontavian Wicks could be a target for San Francisco. I think he would be the most expensive guy on my list, maybe a 4th-round pick, but I think Wicks could actually play in this offense for a few years. I think he was a pretty big part of Green Bay's offense last year, but they drafted 2 receivers in this past year's draft, so he may find himself out the door when it's all said and done. The last one, though, to me, I think may make the most sense, and that is Demario Douglas from the New England Patriots. When you say Patriots-Niners trade wide receiver, those words usually reconnect Kendrick Bourne back to San Francisco, but I think he's way too expensive. I do think that there is maybe some legitimacy to the idea of getting Demario Douglas. He brings some speed. Jacob Cowing's hurt again. I think he can do some of those things that Jacob Cowing is doing right now isn't doing, but is supposed to be doing in the offense. It can bring some speed, bring some pop to the offense. And again, he's making under $1 million this year, so no real financial ties to him. And I think the Patriots, with a new regime in place, once again, new head coach, I think there may be a way you can pry Douglas away from the Patriots and hopefully plug him into your offense, especially if Cowing misses weeks at a time. And to be honest with you, for all the good things Cowing is supposed to be doing, he's done nothing. He's hurt again, so I don't think, Jacob Cowing, you have him there. Like, that shouldn't block any of these acquisitions unless you're cutting somebody, which right now it seems like San Francisco may trot out there Ricky Pearsall, Robbie Chosen-Anderson, Russell Gage, and you're hoping and praying maybe Juwan Jennings is healthy for week 1. So those are 3 guys I think could make some sense for San Francisco on the trade market. And if they are serious about making a deal and the issues at the wide receiver position continue to linger, keep an eye on those 3 guys as potential targets for San Francisco. Getting into the YouTube chat for a second, Kyle Chipto says, the Niners just didn't have a tight end to trade for Mechie. Well, had they kept Mason Pline, brother, you never know. But no, you're right. The Texans had a need they wanted to fill. Niners didn't have the ability to trade a tight end unless they want to move Jake Tungus, which I don't think the Houston Texans really value that much. Clearly they didn't, if he was even involved in trade discussions with them. Tommy Huxley, how's it going, brother? Hope you're having a great Wednesday afternoon. The 49ers 2025 says, Brian Robinson. I want Brian Robinson. We can't keep running Christian McCaffrey into the ground. I get what you're saying. I understand the desire for more running backs. I do think that Jordan James is supposed to be back by this week. If not this week, he is almost guaranteed to be back by next week. So you're going to have your top 3 guys, fingers crossed, healthy going into week 1. So there may be less of a need for that. However, why are the Commanders done with Brian Robinson? Sometimes players are going to be traded for contractual reasons, right? Juwan Jennings wants to get traded. I want a new contract. Guys will force their way out for those reasons. Some guys are older. You have a new regime, rebuilding roster. Like, you want to move off those contracts, get some picks back for those players. But Brian Robinson is not old. He does fit what Washington wants to do. Has been pretty reliable the last few years in the offense. So my question would be, if the Commanders don't want Brian Robinson, what's wrong with Brian Robinson? Maybe nothing, but I think that at least has me hesitant to make that move. But I get what you're saying, and with so many receivers out, it may be worth to have Christian McCaffrey operate more as a wide receiver the first few weeks of the NFL season, which, again, hopefully Grendo and James and Jeff Wilson Jr. can be healthy to hopefully alleviate him in the backfield. He also says here, I prefer Romeo Doubs over Dontavian Wicks. Yeah, I get that, but Doubs has a concussion issue, which funny enough, I'd rather have a high ankle issue than a concussion issue. That to me, like, one hit to the head and it's over. And Doubs has had a ton of them over his career, so I'd rather have Wicks than Romeo Doubs. Let's keep looking here. Fish and Chips, where you been, brother? Happy you're back. He says, another tall receiver, find him, Brock needs them. Well, I would push back on that simply by saying, you have Juwan Jennings, hurt, contract, we'll see if he's out there week 1. Demarcus Robinson, he's suspended, or at least going to be, for 3 games, according to Kyle Shanahan. Now, Robinson will appeal that and hope it gets reduced by 1 to 2 games, but right now San Francisco is not really on track to have Robinson or Cowing out there, leading to what you're getting at is having another big receiver. But the Niners, to me, have Isaiah Hodgins, Tariq Owens, which, again, those guys aren't uber reliable, but they are bigger body receivers, and I think if you want a big receiver, Dontavian Wicks or Romeo Doubs could fit the mold for you. I just don't know, again, how much the Niners want to spend after already spending big money on Brandon Ayuk in previous years. Bobo says here in the YouTube chat, sounds like we won't be winning the Super Bowl again this year. If that was your expectation, which it wasn't mine, but you never know. A lot can happen in the next 20 plus weeks or so. So stay tuned and just be patient. You never know what can happen in the NFL. Let's continue back into my notes from training camp day 15 and 16. And let's get to the attendance because We did have some guys return to the football field the last couple days. Edge rusher Samuel Kawanu came back. Isaac Arendo came back and has looked pretty good in the last 2 days. Renardo Green came back at your outside corner. Jordan Elliott returned. Jason Pinnock also returned. And Nick Bosa, although he didn't do team drills today, also returned to practice. So reinforcements are on their way. They're stuck in the mud trying to get back. That's how I'll word that, I guess. But there are some guys coming back and some key guys, I might add. However, the list of guys absent is still a medieval scroll length because you have Jordan Watkins still out. Malik Turner, who they just signed a couple days ago as a wide receiver, didn't practice today. Upton Stout still out. Trey Brown, CJ West, Kevin Givens, Fabian Monroe, Richie Grant, Robert Beal Jr., Dominic Pooney. Again, Yetur Gross-Matos was also out. It doesn't seem like he'll be back by week 1. There was an update yesterday that said his knee injury is not recovering as they had hoped, so it doesn't feel like Gross-Matos will be back by week 1, which probably leads him to being on the PUP list to begin the season, which isn't the worst thing in the world in regards to maybe stashing a player you like on the roster to begin the year or carrying an extra wide receiver with how bad the injuries are in the room. Then Micah Williams, he is not back yet with his hyperextended knee. He is still experiencing knee comfort, but the hope is that he'll be back likely next week. Stone Blanton is not practicing. He was rehabbing on the side field. Alongside him was Jordan James and Juwan Jennings, who Shanahan made it pretty obvious that if Juwan wants to play, whether it's because of the calf injury or because of the contract stuff, if he wants to play week 1, he has to practice. So it does feel like maybe if it is more contract related for Juwan Jennings, that the timeline is by next week he should be back practicing because Juwan cannot afford to miss games. So if you're in the camp that believes it is not his calf, it's all contract stuff, then JJ should be back by next week. But if he's not, then we really know it's a serious injury. So we're waiting to see there, but I do think it's real, but hopefully he can get back by next week. Alongside those guys being Blanton, James, and Jennings, Ben Barch had a very extended rehab on the sideline yesterday, and today he also had a big brace on his arm, so it does seem like that either that injury to his arm, elbow, maybe he's going to try to play through it, or the brace is more of to hopefully help him get back to full health and not wear the brace when he is returned. He'll probably miss the rest of the week and hopefully back by week 1. And then backup quarterback Mac Jones suffered a knee sprain against the Raiders and could miss week 1 of the NFL season, hence why the team signed Nate Sudfeld, which, funny enough, the Niners will play the entire gauntlet of former Brock Purdy, or I guess the quarterbacks ahead of Brock Purdy this season who were on the depth chart back in 2022 when Brock took over for Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. Obviously, Jimmy G's with the Rams now, may start as soon as week 1 for them, with Stafford being injured. They just re-signed Nate Sudfeld, who was the 3rd quarterback on the depth chart when Purdy was the 4th quarterback in 2022. Now Sudfeld's backing up Brock Purdy on San Francisco.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contracts. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
And they play Trey Lance this Saturday in the preseason finale. So a lot of guys back, a lot of guys also absent. It just sucks to have to start every show with all those guys being out, or maybe a handful of guys back, but it's not fun. It's not fun for Niner fans in general to have to constantly say, we can go to the Super Bowl if we can maybe go to the playoffs if these 9 guys get healthy. It really sucks. and even guys that are back now, Isaac Guerrero often injured. There are so many guys that just they're relying on this year that have never proven to be healthy, and that's a risk sometimes you have to take, but you're hoping that they can pull through, but they haven't just yet. So hopefully as week 1 comes around and things gear up for the actual season opener against the Seahawks, against Seattle in Seattle, that they can kind of, fine-tune themselves and get back to full health. But it does feel like that'll be the case. However, there are some key big players that are not going to be out there. Mainly, it seems like Demarcus Robinson, who I like Demarcus Robinson, not a lot, but enough to be like, yeah, wide receiver 3. Not really 2, but like wide receiver 3 and 4 makes a lot of sense for him, which it's great to have him out there with Kittle and Pearsall and hopefully Jennings and eventually Ayuk. Like, you can see the offense come, the grandiose picture they're trying to create, but Robinson going to get suspended, or I guess already is, according to Kyle Shanahan, and going to miss week 1 of the NFL season, and 2 and 3. So he'll miss 2 key, at least if things hold, 2 key NFC West battles against the Seahawks week 1, then the Saints week 2, then the Cardinals week 3. So, and then if Jawan Jennings isn't healthy, you're going to miss, you're probably not going to have 3 of your top 4 wide receivers to begin the year. So, again, maybe it may be a good idea for San Francisco to kind of be more aggressive getting a trade done or signing somebody at the position. But let's get into some of my noteworthy things from training camp the last 2 days, because again, there's a lot. Stick with me here. I'm going to try to get through this as smoothly and quick as possible and give you everything I know from the last 2 days of training camp. If you guys are wondering, I'm not sure if you are, who's doing kick returns this year, it seems like they have narrowed down their 4-man group to Isaac Guerrero, who did some last year, Junior Burgeon, who was drafted to be that for them in this year's draft class, veteran cornerback Dallas Flowers, who has been the number 2 guy in preseason and training camp throughout this year, and then, if he's healthy, Jacob Cowing, who re-injured his hamstring yesterday, has also been getting kick return reps yesterday. They didn't practice today. So those 4 guys are kind of in the running for the kick return job. I'm assuming Junior Burgeon has locked down punt returns. He's the only guy doing them in preseason and leading that room in practice. So Burgeon has, I guess without really having any camp battle, has won that job by default. The offensive line, though, which I have really, really hated, really hated this year. It's not in shambles like the wide receiver room is, but a lot of concerns are there. We've talked about them the entire training camp and preseason period, so I won't get too far into it, but I'll get into what the rotation has been the last couple of days without Dominic Puni and Ben Barch. We have seen Connor Colby, 7th-round pick, who has already been taking first-team reps in the absence of Ben Barch. He's getting more reps without Dominic Puni out there. In fact, Colby has slid over to left guard, or is at least holding down left guard with Ben Barch out, whereas Nick Zakelj has been taking over at right guard for the team. So you may have a 7th-round pick and a former day 3 pick in Nick Zakelj, 2 backups as your starting guards to begin the year, which Barch and Puni are not promised to be back by week 1, which is terrifying in itself. You don't mind losing Ben Barch, but losing Puni certainly stinks, which Zakelj has, like he's always been, he's an old drum because he's beaten all the time. He just, whether it's Evan Anderson, whether it's Jordan Elliott, who was back yesterday, he doesn't have an anchor. Guys get by him consistently, which it felt like Zakelj was showing some things early in training camp and early in preseason, but that's not been the case for him the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks. He's really taken a step back in his progression. So if he's out there week 1, cross your fingers. But he's not been great, but he is getting all the right guard first-team reps without Dominic Puni out there as part of the starting five. Whereas Connor Colby, unlike Nick Zakelj, has actually been really impressive with his anchor. He's held up relatively well. He's not somebody that wins in 1v1s, which San Francisco did today for the first time since, I think, joint practices against the Raiders. And they haven't done them in a while by themselves because too many guys are hurt. That said, Colby has been very impressive thus far with the first-team offense, playing left guard and at times playing right guard. I actually do have confidence if Colby's out there week one. Seattle's defense is supposed to be better and scary and all the words you want to toss at them have improved and whatnot. But Colby, I think, is held up good enough to at least give me some confidence that he'll perform well in the regular season opener if he's out there and Barch and Pooney aren't back. Shanahan also mentioned that Spencer Burford could slide inside if necessary. However, if he's your backup left tackle and your backup left tackle is sliding inside to play guard, then who's your backup left tackle at that point? So San Francisco, despite having bodies in that room, don't really have the answers to who's your depth guys, who's your backup guys. Austin Pleasance has struggled a lot recently in practices as the backup right tackle, and so the Niners' offensive line, to me, is my biggest concern. It's the biggest problem on the field, and that's with the wide receiver issues withstanding. Offensive line, to me, is that's like the one position group that could derail the entire season because the offensive line holds together the entire Shanahan offense, as it does most other offenses in football, but running the football, you can't do it if your offensive line sucks. So I am like terrified as to what can come from the offensive line being this bad. It just is something that, if one guy goes down, that's going to be a problem. Why is everybody talking about trades? Okay, we have some trades. I will read them off in the chat because I see somebody out there mentioning them. The Denver Broncos are trading wide receiver Devon Villay, I'm assuming is his last name, hopefully that's right, to the Saints for a 4th-round pick in 2026 and a 7th-round pick in 2027. So a lot of trades happening today. I think Harrison Phillips got traded from the Vikings to somebody else. Is that who it was? Anyways, doesn't matter. A lot of guys are getting traded, and a lot of wide receivers are getting traded, so San Francisco maybe want to hop on that if they can. JC49 Niner for Life says, please hit that like button. Don't be shy. You're right. And no, the Niners did not trade for Trey Hendrickson, as Joseph asks here in the YouTube chat. It did not happen unless I missed it. I did not see San Francisco doing that, so no, it hasn't happened. Don't be fooled by Joseph in the YouTube chat. He always likes to have fun in there. But before we go on to the actual takeaways from training camp today, including Brock Purdy, getting into Pearsall and Kittle, all that stuff, go ahead and hit that like button, and also use our promo code right here on your screen, 49ers Access, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase, whether it is football tickets, baseball tickets, concert tickets, whatever you need. Go to SeatGeek.com and use that promo code 49ers Access. Summer's almost over. The clock is ticking. Parents, your kids are going to be free for 2 more weeks, maybe, if you're lucky. My wife's been back to work for a month, meaning I'm free. But your kids don't have much time left to go and spend with them during summertime. So go out there, use that promo code, and hopefully have a good time with the kids. Or you and your wife, you and your husband, whatever you do, use that promo code and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Okay. Let's get into the bigger takeaways from training camp the last 2 days. And let's start things off with the quarterback, as we always do here on the show, Brock Purdy. Now, again, Brock's a starter, blah, blah, blah. Like, we already know that stuff. However, today there were a couple of close calls for Brock Purdy. He threw one interception today. It was deflected and landed in D. Winters' hands, so good on D. Winters being there, getting an INT. And Brock was also late going across the middle to George Kittle, in which Fred Warner almost picked him off. So there was some plays you said, hey, clean that up. But overall, Brock threw 3 touchdowns today, 1 to Ricky Pearsall, 1 to Tariq Owens, and then he had George Kittle rolling to his right wide open, which would have been a massive gain, if not a touchdown downfield. So while there was some bad, there's also some really good from Brock Purdy. Yesterday, though, had a beautiful pass. He lofted that thing deep down the left sideline yesterday. Pearsall, it was on his outside shoulder, so he's this way to his outside shoulder, and he turns his body, makes the adjustment, with Jair Brown trailing behind him. He catches it. He just makes an amazing adjustment downfield, comes down with the football for about 40 yards and moved the ball, period. So the big plays are still there. The offense is still moving despite guys not being able to practice due to injury. Purdy is out there still slicing up the defense, which in itself was also injured, but has been more healthy the last few days and the last 2 weeks or so. And then today, Brock Purdy had a phenomenal throw over the middle to Robbie Chosen Anderson. It was, and this is the one thing we've seen with Brock Purdy as he has progressed as a quarterback in the NFL, and even in his little glimpse of play against the Raiders that one drive, his ability to throw receivers open or hit receivers out of their breaks right in stride is tremendous. And today, same thing. He found Chosen Anderson over the middle, right out of his break, caught it, and then ran for about 15 more yards. So I know there is some stress about who's going to be out there at wide receiver and who's going to be the guys that step up. Sometimes, really, if your quarterback can put the ball on dudes, not to say it doesn't matter who your receivers are, but all you got to do is catch the football. Again, you'd rather have Jamar Chase and Ayuk and Gay Jettas and all the other AJ Brock. You'd rather have the top line guys, but like San Francisco, you'd rather have Juwan Jennings and Pearsall and Ayuk and Robinson, and you'd rather have your dudes out there. But really, I think Brock is a quarterback, let's say, unlike Jimmy Garoppolo in previous years in San Francisco, that can actually succeed when his top wide receivers aren't on the football field. And I think we've at least seen that during practice, even during the preseason game. It was a Pearsall and Purdy show, which that may change come Seattle week 1 and how they scheme against San Francisco. But really, if you can put your guys in the right place, and Shanahan can usually do that, and they'll be in the right place themselves, well, I don't think, while yes, the receiver issues are true and they are a somewhat of a concern, I do think this team is more equipped to overcome them than, say, previous iterations of the roster, like Jimmy Garoppolo playing quarterback, where it was like, if there's no Debo, good luck kind of thing, right? And so I do think that San Francisco may be able to survive at least, 2-3 weeks without some guys being out there, but obviously still, you want your top dogs out there. But Purdy still being able to slice and dice their own defense on a continual basis this training camp has been a pleasure to watch and read from. Then Nate Sudfeld. I was going to talk about Carter Bradley, but why? I guess he's quarterback too, but I don't really care. But they did sign Nate Sudfeld, so I figured I'd bring him up. And like he has always done, he's not been very good. And he wasn't very good today in his first practice back in the red and gold. His literal first pass of team drills was an interception right to Jalen Graham. So almost three linebacker interceptions today. Winters, Graham, and nearly Warner. But not a great day for Nate Sudfeld. First play interception. He was wildly inaccurate, missing throws high, low, wide. He just wasn't having a good day. Not sure if that's because of coming off a street. Not sure if it's just kind of, first day back jitters. But there's a real chance he is the quarterback 3, like the emergency guy coming into the year. With Mac Jones maybe being injured. We'll see how that kind of progresses over the next week or so. However, he just wasn't great. He finished with a touchdown pass to Demarcus Robinson, so there is that. But just Nate Sudfeld's not good and wasn't good today, and I'm not surprised it wasn't good because he's never that good. So let's quickly move along to Christian McCaffrey and Isaac Guerendo, whereas yesterday Isaac Guerendo was a kind of a breath of fresh air to the backfield where it's been Christian McCaffrey, it's been Keyshawn Vaughn and Jeff Wilson Jr. and Corey Kiner and in previous weeks Patrick Taylor Jr., whereas no Jordan James. While CMC's out there, he has scheduled off days, and so you're getting 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th string running backs. Guerendo comes back yesterday. Immediately, you can see the difference in the depth when he's out there. The speed's evident. He's fast as can be. Although maybe his skill set is more of that of a wide receiver, which could be an option for San Francisco with guys being on the shelf. But Guerendo has 4.3 speed. He can get through a hole as fast as possible. And I think if he's healthy, he will be a large part of the first couple weeks offense with guys being inactive due to injury and suspensions. He just is, for as
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks, or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Visit USAA.com/bundle.
Bundle savings are off total premium, not available in all states or in all situations. To qualify, auto policy must be active prior to property policy issue, subject to change. Restrictions apply. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
For as many holes in his game as he has as a second-year pro, he is miles ahead of, even Corey Kiner and Jeff Wilson Jr. and Keyshawn Vaughn, and as he should be, mind you. But it's just worth noting that there's a clear difference in the play of a 4th-round pick, 5th-round pick compared to guys that are UDFAs and veteran holdouts or whatnot, which was nice to see out there. Like the offense, the motor of the offense runs smoother with Guerendo out there compared to other guys behind him. But then Christian McCaffrey today had arguably his most active practice of training camp and preseason. Obviously hasn't played in preseason. Probably not going to play in preseason. I know I would not play him. Brock Purdy's not going to play. At least that's what Kyle Shanahan said today in the preseason finale. So you're going to get 4 quarters of Carter Bradley and Nate Sudfeld this Saturday against Trey Lance and the Chargers, which will be not fun to watch, but we'll be tuned in. That said, Christian McCaffrey was awesome today. It certainly helps to have Trent Williams and Kyle Juszczyk to run behind on a consistent basis towards your left, and that was where a lot of his big plays came from, to the left, which is not a surprise. He caught a one-handed touchdown pass in the red zone today too, but then probably broke about a 40, 50-yard touchdown run in team drills behind Trent and Kyle Juszczyk, and even got a good block from Demarcus Robinson. He also got sprung for a 15, 10-plus yard run over the middle today as well. So there was some nice burst from CMC, and as this team, again, the anxiety ramps up for who's healthy by week 1, some of that can be kind of qualmed by the presence of Christian McCaffrey out there for the 49ers, whereas I know, again, the focus has been on who's not playing. I would say turn your focus on is who playing, or focus on who actually is playing. Whereas Brock Purdy, Pearsall, Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, those guys should be able to do some damage against opposing defenses, even without maybe Juwan or Robinson or Cowing and those guys. So, again, Christian McCaffrey, very active today. A lot of speed on display. He was flashing some speed. He was breaking some tackles. He was moving extremely well. So the McCaffrey detractors, as I'll call them, another bad day for them, which has been a pretty bad preseason and training camp period for them as well. CMC looks good. Looks really good. Then George Kittle. He... like most of training camp, continues to be the favorite target of Brock Purdy. It's been him and Ricky Pearsall, and unlike every other day, it's George Kittle out there making big plays over and over again. Again, caught that probably would have been long touchdown pass from Purdy today. And then yesterday, had an amazing catch towards the sideline, being covered by Luke Gifford. So that is white on white crime, if you will. It was tight coverage, but Kittle had outstretched arms, caught the football, got the toe taps in, and it was a great play for an all-pro tight end, which will probably be eventually a Hall of Fame tight end when it's all said and done. So George Kittle, again, I know the focus is on who's not playing, but focus on who's playing, and you have probably at least in contention for an all-pro, Pro Bowl running back in the backfield. You have an all-pro tight end, and you have a first-round pick wide receiver. You should be able to do some damage with your franchise $53-ish million a year quarterback, no matter who you're playing against that week. So that brings me to Ricky Pearsall, who, again, like most days and like George Kittle, has been one of the top targets for Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy found Pearsall a lot the last couple of days, but more so today than yesterday. He hit Pearsall downfield. The negative of this is that deep crosser hits Pearsall in the hands. Siegel, great play by him, comes in, breaks it up. So good play by the rookie safety out of Kansas State. But then Pearsall drops it. Then he comes back with the vengeance, catches 4 passes in a row, including a wide open touchdown from Brock Purdy. So maybe you want to see Pearsall have stronger hands on the deep ball, but came back, won 4 of his next plays, including a touchdown pass, which will take any day practice game of the week from your second-year wide receiver. There was a bit of a scare, which you don't like to see, knowing Cowing and Jennings and Robinson and Watkins and Malik Turner and everybody else who's on the shelf with injuries at the wide receiver spot. There was kind of a broken play today where Aquanu got in the backfield and got a would-be sack on Purdy, but Purdy evades as you don't have there's no dead balls in practice. But then threw the ball late to Pearsall. He goes up, tries to get it, but then came down really hard on his shoulder. At that point, everyone goes, "Oh, is he okay?" And he's down on the ground holding his shoulder like, oh my God, your heart drops of like, what else can go wrong? A guy that has had shoulder injuries throughout his entire career at Florida and in the NFL, the last thing you want is to have him go down again with one a week and a half away from the season opener against Seattle. But he gets up, medical staff checks him out, comes back, and catches the aforementioned touchdown pass. So it seemed to be like a lot of their injuries, mainly Micah Williams and CJ West, another near miss of a big one. They continue to miss the big one, and that happened today again for Ricky Pearsall. Just, man, like every time, like honestly, like I know we joke and like, put him in bubble wrap. Sometimes, yeah, you want to put these dudes in bubble wrap because every day it's something else, and the last thing you can afford to do is lose Pearsall, Kittle, McCaffrey, Purdy. Knock on wood, those things don't happen, but it's almost like, hey, Kyle, they're good. They're not going to get better from today to week 1 of the NFL season. There's no reason to even go out there early on Saturday and play unless you're, Evan Anderson and Carter Bradley. Let's 2 on 11. Just let them go at it because you don't want to have your guys get hurt. But let's get to the defense. The defense of the day, because Sebastian Valdez continues to impress, and I think he has an inside track into winning a job. The defensive line is loaded, but I do think Valdez may be one of the benefactors of Yetur Gross-Matos not being healthy to begin the year. Maybe you're in the camp that believes Valdez should make the roster outright, and I wouldn't push back on you there. Had a really good training camp in preseason as a UDFA, but I think he's one of the guys that can benefit from YGM not being healthy to begin the year. He had a pressure yesterday on Carter Bradley, and then later had a nice run stop to kind of stymie a run up the middle. So some good stuff from Sebastian the Hulk Valdez, I may say, on the last couple of days. Alfred Collins also, despite some of the issues he's had and the slow start he's had, he had a much better practice today than previous weeks. He beat Nick Sakello in V1, which probably shouldn't be too impressive, but it's how he beat him that matters. Yes, there was power, but he also finally disengaged and was able to push through and get around him. And it's like the heavens opened up, and it was like Alfred Collins disengaged from a block. Thank God. He also, I wouldn't say beat, but he pushed back Jake Brendel pretty well in 1v1s too. So there was some slight improvement from Alfred Collins, and he got some praise from Robert Saleh today discussing his run defense. So a uptick in performance and praise for the second-round pick of the 49ers. Then Evan Anderson back from injury the last couple of days in preseason game and has looked pretty good out there at practice. Got a would-be sack or pressure after beating Jake Brendel yesterday. And then today probably had his best day at training camp. Beat Nick Sakel a couple times, just made him look like a backup, which he is. And then he also beat the newly signed Michael Dunn. So Evan Anderson feasting on some backups, but an important thing to do for a team that going to have a lot of guys that are unproven need to step up this year. Moving to the secondary, which has a ton of takeaways and some praise from me because Bernardo Green came back yesterday and got a PBU on a pass targeting Jacob Cowing from Brock Purdy. And Green, who's kind of being eased back into the fray of things as an outside cornerback, he's looking good. He's looking good. I think while, yes, you want him to be healthy by week 1 and they're trying to take things slow with him, the fourth play of practice, boom, PBU, lockdown. Yep, that's second round pick right there. That's why he's out there. That's why he's your guy. And that's why he'll be playing opposite Lenore and probably Upton Stout to begin the year. Then Jacob Robinson, he continues to get first-team reps as they rotate cornerbacks with Green being eased back into the fold. He had a nice PBU, I believe it was yesterday, from Brock Purdy to Ricky Pearsall. So Robinson, who is a guy that probably didn't expect to get first-team reps in his first training camp as a UDFA, but has quickly ascended the depth chart for me, where I do see him maybe pushing Trey Brown for a spot. I think he's kind of on the fringe of making the roster. I'd love to have him here. I can see them wanting to retain him over Trey Brown, but I think preseason week 3, if it already isn't decided, will be a big one for him. But I'm happy to report that another couple of good days from him out there at the practice field in Santa Clara. Then Jair Brown. We have talked a lot about Jair Brown. He has not been good in training camp. He has not been good in the preseason. And while there still are struggles, there's been some issues. Even yesterday, he did get a kind of an interception. Like, he caught the football. Like, he got the ball. He got the interception, but it may have been a sack if it was an actual game by Jordan Elliott, so maybe that comes into play. But it was a pass from, I believe, Brock Purdy to Malik Turner that was picked off by Jair Brown, which the ball was thrown right to him, so I can't praise him for making an amazing play. But a lot of guys in previous defenses has not been able to secure interceptions and takeaways, which has been a problem for this defense in their down years. And I think having the ability to be a playmaker, which Jair Brown was drafted because of that ability to make and get interceptions on defense. So good by him, although, again, for every good thing he does, it feels like there's 2 bad things involved. So still we are on Jair Brown trade/cut watch as the preseason winds down in the next week. Then Jalen Mahoney, a guy that was cut 2 weeks ago, but then brought back. He got what eventually became, I guess, the game-winning interception against the Raiders. Got the pick, offense moves the football downfield, gets the game-winning field goal. And he's a guy I've liked a lot. He got reps last year on special teams. He's a guy I was surprised they cut initially, but wasn't surprised they brought back.
You're tuned into Auto Intelligence, live from Auto Trader, where data, tools, and your preferences sync to make your car shopping smooth.
They're searching inventory.
Oh, yeah.
They find what you need.
They're gonna find
and
it.
You can make a budget for your wallet to help you succeed. Pricing's precise and true.
So true.
It's smarter car shopping.
Ooh.
Just for you.
Oh, it's just for you.
Ooh.
Find your next ride at autotrader.com. Powered by Auto Intelligence.
He has been not great, but the last two practices, Saleh has been ramping up the aggression with him and actually utilizing him as a blitzer a lot. And I think it's a role that, kind of like we've seen with Chase Lucas, might benefit him a lot. We've seen him yesterday, got a perfectly timed blitz, unblocked, a free shot at the quarterback. Obviously, in practice, you can't take those, but he would have lit up a quarterback yesterday. And then today, he blitzed again untouched, and got a PBU on a pass from Carter Bradley. So maybe a underrated aspect of Jalen Mahoney's practice or skill set being kind of brought out the last 2 days or so from Saleh, which is good to see. You want to see young guys step up and make plays when either other guys are hurt. And again, if San Francisco is talking about, cutting, Jair Brown or whatnot, and maybe it's Siren Neal or Jalen Mahoney who takes a spot, it's good to see Jalen Mahoney be out there, making plays and being utilized in a way that maybe could complement Saleh's defense more so than, or more than how poorly Jair Brown has played. So worth highlighting. And I think Mahoney probably has an inside track to the practice squad, but this team has a lot of tough decisions to make when it comes down to roster cutdown day. So just keep Jalen Mahoney in the back of your mind. That brings us to Jake Moody, everyone's favorite kicker, because he was 5 for 5 yesterday after having a 5 for 6 day against the Las Vegas Raiders, hitting a game-tying and game-winning kick. He hit from 33, 37, 40, 43, and 50 yards at practice yesterday. Didn't do those today, but a good sign that Jake is starting to maybe put together some consistency out there on special teams. Let's see if we have any comments here in the YouTube chat from others, because really, what else can you say about Jake Moody? It's always a wait and see. It's always a hold your breath, because you just never know. Bobo here asks a question. So Demarcus Robinson's suspensions for that DUI, not for steroids or something else. Yes, that is correct. Demarcus Robinson's suspension is a result of a DUI from last November. That is why. Not steroids, not PEDs, not something else. It is a DUI from November of last year. The NFL finally getting around to it. He is probably going to appeal it, and he's hoping to reduce it by 1, 2 games or no games. We shall see what the NFL decides, which I'm sure they'll uphold it, but sometimes it's just more of a semantics thing of like, I'm going to appeal, and they go, we don't want to deal with it. Here's 2 games instead. So that's Robinson trying to preserve and maybe get back 1 game sooner if he's lucky. But yes, Bobo, it is a DUI, nothing more, nothing less, which don't do that. Don't get DUIs. Don't drink and drive. It's bad for you. I know we're making it sound like it's small, but like, hey, don't. It's bad. Yeah, so there's my PSA. Don't do DUIs because they're bad. Kyle Chipto says here in the YouTube chat, Alfred Collins is a work in progress. He's a home run swing, while West and Valdez are higher floor players. In a year or two, this DT room could be elite. I would agree that that Collins is more of a higher ceiling, lower floor player, but I'm thinking that San Francisco at least views him as a run defender at the very least, of like, hey, if you're not going to grow as a player, just take up space, which I think he can do this year. But that remains to be seen. But yes, to your other point, West has a much higher ceiling, at least in my opinion, but West also has less boom or less bust potential. Whereas Collins could be elite, West, I think, has a higher chance of being a better player, more consistent at least. but a much higher floor to not bust like Collins could. Probably shouldn't use that bust and Collins in the way I used it in that terminology. Might get me in trouble somewhere. But Valdez, same way, higher floor player, probably get more consistency out of them than Collins on a week-by-week basis. He also says, Jacob Robinson is sick. I would agree. I'd keep him over Darrell Luter Jr. I think I'd keep everybody over Darrell Luter Jr., to be fair. Darrell Luter Jr. is just not good. He's just bad. So bad. Yeah, I mean, if Darrell Luter Jr. makes this team, I am going to throw a fit. Like, there's no reason. He's just so bad. Honestly, you talk about making a trade. Like, if you need a receiver that bad, Darrell Luter Jr., young cornerback, you're building team, like the Browns, maybe the Ravens, the Patriots. Like, there are teams that I think would take a chance on Darrell Luter Jr. or Jair Brown. The Patriots are trying to trade Kyle Duggar. Maybe Jair Brown fits in their mold, and you go Jair Brown and, you know, you get Demario Douglas back and like a 6th-round pick or whatever, and you just wash your hands and say, move on. I think that can make some sense for San Francisco. I know there's been some Jets and Jair Brown connection, but Jacob Robinson has been, to me, a very, like, he makes it very tough to cut him or let him go. I think he's been that good, and, you know, I think he has a much higher ceiling. Much higher ceiling than Darrell Luter Jr., who's done nothing for San Francisco. So, again, if San Francisco wants to make a few deals or so, they do have some secondary pieces that maybe could entice some teams into getting more picks they can utilize for other trades, or just one-for-ones, or you know, Brown and Douglas, you know, pick swaps involved. Like, there are ways San Francisco can make things work if they want to go out there and acquire a receiver if guys are going to be hurt. But tell me down below what you make of the Demarcus Robinson 3-game suspension and Jacob Cowing's hamstring injury. Are you worried? Are you concerned? Who do you think they should go out there and get via the trade market or free agency? Gabe Davis is gone. There's not many guys left. Maybe Jordan Matthews. But tell me down below who you think San Francisco should try to acquire, or which teams you think they can make a deal with as the receiver room dwindles down to mainly 3 healthy guys, being Pearsall, Russell Gage, and Robbie Chosen Anderson. There's not much. I almost forgot their names. Fish and Chips asks here, Sterling, you're not getting suspended, right? I hope not. I don't know how I can do that, but you never know. The way things are going, well, I'm not going to get a DUI. My wife, she may come home and say, you know what, Sterling, the dishes aren't done. What have you been doing all day? And I'll say, honey, the Niners lost 5 more receivers. I haven't talked about it instead. So I got some chores to finish around the house as I work from home here, but I hope not. The wife hopefully I can keep her at bay from any repercussions that may be at hand for me. And Kenny says, Sterling runs it. He fears no suspensions. I'll tell you this. While my wife is a very calm woman, I've never seen her get that mad. But if she does get mad, a suspension might be in the works, but hopefully, fingers crossed, things don't get that far. And Bobo says here, the judge said I couldn't drink anymore. That's not that bad. I haven't had a drink of alcohol in my entire life. Water and iced tea for me, brother. I sounded like a nerd there. And that's probably the best way to end the show, right there. And so thank you, Bobo, Kenny, Kyle Chipto, Fish and Chips, Papa J, Strawberry, so many more of you in here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys can like, share, and subscribe to the show. You can also follow us on social media at 49ers.access is the Instagram, 49ers_access is the X or Twitter, and use our promo code right here, 49ersaccess, 49 ERS ACCESS at SeatGeek.com, and save yourself $20 off your first purchase. As always, my name is Sterling Bennett, and until next time, as always, stay faithful.
Want to live better?
We've got a lot of work to do.
Join Chris Hemsworth in National Geographic's new Disney Plus original series, Limitless. Live better now.
I'm diving headfirst into cutting-edge science to uncover 3 powerful secrets to living better right now. The growth that occurs through any challenging experience is really what we seek.
Chris Hemsworth stars in Limitless. Live better now. Now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
It's showtime.